gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Watch out now. Cause baby, I feel real good and I wish I would. Watch out now. It's gotta be against the law to look.
Wake up! Yeah, that's right. It's that time again. Vape AM, brought to you by Vapers1.com. I'm your host, Anthony Ramella. Man, it's harder and harder to get up, especially after a holiday. So welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, time to get back to work. I totally understand. It's rough getting out of bed after a 3-day weekend. Well, you know, I'm going to do things like we do normally every day. I want to talk about a little history today. Actually, what I did was I pulled some history from yesterday because being Memorial Day and all, I thought, what the heck? Let's pull up some history about yesterday and kind of see what types of things happen on this date in history. A couple of kind of big ones today. In 1981, Ronald Reagan actually had an assassination attempt. He was shot, but he was not killed. In all honesty, I don't remember any other assassination attempts since then. You know, congratulations to our country as far as that goes, because you know, that is definitely not a good thing. That one guy is not controlling everything, no matter how much you think that he is. And unfortunately, in the past few years, if we'd assassinated a president, I think we would have been worse off if we'd had the vice president. But that's just my personal opinion. Another thing that happened in history, which I'm taking this a little bit seriously because I'd like to see how far our country has come, especially in a short period of time. In 1958, the first African American graduates from high school in Arkansas. That's just been 61 years ago. So it's really nice to see how far our country has come as far as those type of items. Yes, we are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think we really, really have come a long way since that happened. So that's just a couple of things. And one of the things I want to drive home with this is that minds can change. People can change their perception of things. And my question is, can you change your perception when it comes to things like vaping? So just one of those little tidbits in there I want you to kind of think about. All right, well, let's get on to some news this morning. It's time for the Wake and Vape news. So the thing we're going to talk about today is the documentation and the study have actually come out into the public view as far as this teen vaping epidemic and the numbers that they got to actually come up with some of the statistics that all the media outlets and all the anti-vaping people have been throwing out there about the 3.5 million teenagers that vape and how much of an epidemic this really is. Now that we actually have the real study, we can actually look at these numbers and actually make some sense out of this. The worst part is that these were grossly overdone numbers on these things. And what happened was the people that were actually able to break the numbers down and look at the individual items, the things that they're really telling us are just really not true. And not that I'm surprised at all. So the study says that 3.5 million teens are vaping, and that's what the media and everybody has been putting out. So once the study has actually gotten out there and we're able to take a look at it, there are two specific things that we need to look at. First off, the 3.5 million teens included anyone who had ever tried an e-cigarette at all. So if you were with your friends and you didn't know much about it and you're like, hey, let me give that a shot real quick, that one puff made you a teen vapor, all right? As much as someone else who had, you know, vapes every day that actually lives with this as their nicotine replacement. So after these numbers are split into very random users and then also very like daily users, like people that I would actually consider a vapor, like someone that is using this thing on a consistent basis, you know, 5 to 7 days a week, they're using it throughout the day. Those are the teenagers that we're concerned about because we know that that is where you're actually going to get addicted to this nicotine, and that's everyone's biggest concern. These people that tried it every once in a while or maybe one time is not something that I'm so concerned about because teenagers are teenagers. They're going to experiment. They're going to try different things. Let's not lump all these people together and saying this is why there's such a problem with this. If you tried it once and you didn't like it, or if you tried it and the nicotine, you know, made you feel weird, you may not ever want to consider doing that again. When I was in Little League, I tried chewing tobacco and threw up. That doesn't mean I am a tobacco chewer. That meant that I tried it as a kid, I found out it was nasty, and I never tried it again. So once we split this up into those two groups, we find that the teens that actually I would consider to be vapors, that percentage drops to 0.6% of teenagers that are actually vaping. So instead of having that 3.5 million vapors out there that are teenage age, this actually drops this down to about 95,000, which I'm not saying is a good number, but we need to look at the truth about this before we start pulling this away from adults who are actually getting a lot of benefit out of this with the flavors and all that kind of stuff, to what the real numbers are of how this is affecting our young people. 95,000 to me, yes, is a big number, but when you talk about over 50 million students in schools across the United States, that drops that considerably. And I wouldn't think that those percentage of students, there's probably a higher percentage of students that drink, and probably a higher percentage of students that actually used to use cigarettes before vaping was available. And I never saw any epidemic that came up with those terms, or anybody that was trying to get laws passed to eliminate, tobacco products or to eliminate alcohol products. This is just something that they have just blown completely out of proportion. And basically, it's like saying that there are 3.5 million alcoholic teenagers because some of them had some beer-battered shrimp during that 30 days. And well, since they used beer in that 30 days, they must be part of this. And that's why these numbers and percentages and things get thrown way out of proportion, because they're not getting the true stats, because they're not scary enough to get laws passed. They're not scary enough to work into a news cycle. They need something that's really scary, and that's why they use those inflated numbers. But the truth is, it's nowhere near the problem that they've been talking about. Now, one thing I'm going to leave you with today, because I don't have a lot, this is a big topic, and I wanted to make sure that we got this out there so you guys understood. But when you raise the age of something that is not for kids, that basically just makes them want it more, okay? This is something they feel like they're more of an adult if they can actually do these things, and I don't know that changing the age or banning flavors is actually going to fix this issue that they actually want to be fixed. That's my personal opinion, but it's been in effect in several places for several years, and Hawaii obviously being the worst one of the bunch. They've had tobacco 21 laws in place since 2016, and they have the third highest rate of youth vaping of any state. So it's one of those things we definitely have to look at. Now, I want to leave you with something today just for you to think about. The number one cause of death among teenagers is driving, by far. There is no question about that. That is definitely the case. So why don't we raise the age for driving to 21? If that's your whole concern, is making sure that our young people are safe and not being injured, not having anything hazardous done to them, not causing them any real issues, why don't we do that? Well, there's a lot of reasons why we don't do that, but if that is truly your goal, let's focus on the number one death when it comes to teenagers, which happens to be driving, and let's raise the age to that to 21. I would love to see the people that came on board to fight that. I'm betting a lot of the car companies would actually come out and say, no, 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 when really the statistics show that that is legitimately the number one cause of harm when it comes to teenagers. So just something for you to think about today. I like to throw that stuff out there just to kind of get the conversation rolling. All right, as you guys know, here at Vape AM, we want you to stop smoking or you're gonna die. Get in whatever type of nicotine replacement therapy works for you, use it. Obviously, we like vaping because we know it is 3 times as effective as all of those other stop smoking tools combined, but you got to do what's right for you. Don't forget about the I Vape and I Vote. You are a voter. Your vote counts. Make sure that you know that you need to contact your state officials, your government officials, your federal officials, send out emails, talk to people. Let's get this conversation started, because 87% of people currently think that vaping is more dangerous than smoking, and we need to get rid of those falsehoods and get the real information out there so you can make a logical choice. All right? I got to get out of here. I got to get a shower. I got to get on with the rest of my day, but I'm going to be coming to you for the rest of this week. I'm going to be hitting you with more news and stuff, but just stay tuned. You know what you know will help you to make better decisions, and the more information that I can get out to you will definitely help you to make the right decision. So we're going to see you tomorrow. You guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you later.